And all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a real treat today. I am honored to introduce our speaker for the day, Miss Mary Cravets. Mary is an award-winning client generation expert and international speaker who helps coaches grow their businesses without working nights and weekends. She's heard all the confusing and conflicting advice out there, so she isn't surprised that most coaches struggle to establish a sustainable business, but she's here to change that. Using her methods, the majority of Mary's clients quickly increase their income by 50% or more. Her clients range from the former CFO of Microsoft North America to coaches in their first few years of business. Now, here's some fun facts. Mary is a huge fan of roller coasters, obsessed with otters, and proud mom to her cat, Inigo Montoya. Ladies and gentlemen, let's drop fire and applause in the chat with a huge San Antonio welcome to Miss Mary Cravets.
Thank you so much. Tia, I'm going to hire you as my hype person to do that every single time. I'm going to just say that. All right. So today we are going to talk about bold sales conversations. And one of my favorite things about this stuff, first of all, I am the biggest fan of sales because of what it actually is. And that's what you're going to learn today. What sales actually is, kind of moving around your definition. And then also looking at how it's actually structured to have a sales conversation. And then what isn't sales? Lead generation isn't sales. Messaging isn't sales. Nurturing isn't sales. So putting definitions around things, putting structures and frameworks around things, this is the way to not waste effort. So you can have a steady stream of clients without social media, without working nights and weekends. You with me? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Actually, I'm not going to get started. I'm going to put in the chat one more time the handout. Now, the handout, and I'm going to say it for the people who are listening to the recording. The recording is simplygetclients.com/, it's a little tedious, but I'm going to do it, bold dash sales dash handout. Simplygetclients.com/bold dash sales dash handout. This is going to be really important because this is hands down the most detailed and comprehensive training, a free training that I do. It literally contains the entire sales process that I work with my clients, and that's extremely valuable, and it will make it completely confusing if you don't have it to follow along with, and then make your own notes. Okay, so for real this time, I'm going to get started. Okay, just to check in to see who is in the room, I am curious who ever feels like little Calvin here. Everybody needs what you're selling. Coaching. Everybody kind of needs it. And it's frustrating, and because if you could just get people to see and understand what you do, your business could just take off. It's, yeah, okay, I saw some nods. And what I know is you're good. You're here to do good with your business. So when you can't get people to see and understand what you do, then you're not attracting the clients, you're not making the impact, and it's just so frustrating. But that's why the work we're doing together here matters today. So today our conversation is going to be about bold sales conversation. This content is perfect for you if you are a newer coach and business owner and want to enroll new clients with more ease and confidence, or if you're more experienced and you're looking to improve your closing ratio so you're getting better results with what you're already doing without adding more work to your plate. All right, here is what we are going to cover today. First, you're going to shift your perspectives on sales that are putting limits on you and putting limits on your prospective clients. Secondly, you're going to learn a complete sales conversation format that gives your prospect the opportunity to enroll themselves. That's a conversation I'd like to invite you to. This idea of having your clients enroll themselves. It's not on you to convince or explain well enough to get them to see it, but how do you bring them through a process so they are coming to the table themselves? All right, and the last piece is the bigger picture structure and system that makes it easier to attract clients, grow your income, and make a bigger impact in the world. Because spoiler alert, you can have a perfect technique for process for your sales conversations, but without the leads coming in, you're not going to have an opportunity to use that. So we're going to go through the bigger picture. And here's my favorite part of the day, and that is where we're going to create lasting impact, because I want to take some time to kind of integrate what you've learned. You're going to turn this information into actual transformation outside of this room. So before you rush off to your next appointment, we give you some time to do some planning and reflecting. Now, a few housekeeping items. If you can hold questions about, I'm going to do a little reflection after the first teaching point. I'm going to do a big chunk of Q&A after the second, and then we'll have a chunk of time at the end. So if you put anything in the chat, I will hold it until we get to a break. And you'll also have the opportunity to get your questions answered one-on-one later. All right, and as awkward as this will sound to those of you on the call live, if you are listening to the recording right now, any resources I might mention during this session, you're more than welcome to reach out for them in the future. All right, last tip about how to get the most out of today. Do your homework in class. Do as many of the exercises and assessments as you possibly can so you can get your questions answered and have a shorter to-do list afterward. You with me? All right, so all the housekeeping is officially out of the way. I'm going to ask you now to open up the chat window and put your hands on the keyboard, and I'm going to ask you a question, and without overthinking, first challenge, I'm going to ask you to answer it. And here's the question. Why is this topic important to you? What makes this topic important to you? You probably have one or two other things on your to-do list you could be doing, but you're here today with your most valuable resource, your time. All right, so in the chat, let's see what we got. I want new clients so I can help more people. We've got leading authentically. We've got what Colleen said, one of the few previous comments. Starting my business, wonderful. Selling is the hardest part because I know I have lots of room for improvement in my sales process, and I'm passionate about helping people. Well, and what I'm so proud about is that you are actually here doing the hard work. I joke that this is kind of the broccoli of your coaching business. All of the coaching learning and the assessments and the tools and the certifications, that's all the fun stuff. And the clients and the coaching, that's all the fun stuff. And my topics often are, yeah, they're broccoli, they're the redheaded stepchild. So the fact that you showed up shows that you're not just committed to the stuff you love, but committed to doing the stuff that's a little bit more challenging. And I applaud you for that. All right, so I'm going to go into the content here just a second, but I think it's important to just give you a little insight. Oh, I don't know why I have my hand up. Excuse me, I have a question for myself. All right, so I'm just going to pull back the curtain on where some of this content comes from. Because right now, yes, I own a great training school. I've had it for about 15 years now, and I've helped thousands of coaches grow their businesses. It's incredibly fulfilling work. And looking at what I have now, it's kind of hard to remember where I started, which is maybe where some of you can relate to this. So I started my business because I was leaping out of a stable but soul-crushing work situation, and I was just on fire. I was like, woohoo! I am helping people. I am in alignment with my values. I'm contributing to the prosperity of others. But the problem was I was also running in a million different directions. I was not charging what I was worth. I didn't even know what to charge, if I'm honest. And it only took 2 years for me to have complete burnout. I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, and suddenly I only had 4 hours to run my business. And so I was kind of like, okay, decision time. This business is paying the bills. What are you going to do? And Through all the fear and all the fog that I was experiencing, one question broke through. And this is actually the first thing I'm going to recommend you write down. The question that broke through was simply, what's working? That was it. What's working? Because I no longer had time or energy to chase down the latest marketing trend or figure out what social media was doing with its algorithms. I needed to know that wherever I put my very limited time and energy, that it would actually pay off. And starting with that one question, my business actually started to grow as I recovered my health. And over time, what happened is it evolved into this larger client generation system. And this is the reason my clients consistently grow their incomes. It's what has helped me grow my own business. It's exactly what I use. But overall, it's what gives us all the sense of relief, knowing we have the time freedom, financial freedom, and the emotional ease that comes with having a structure so everything doesn't grind to a halt no matter what life throws at us. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So let's start with shifting perspectives. I was joking before we got on the call with the people who got here early about how the first step is always about unlearning what our assumptions are about sales. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the three most impactful things I learned about sales that moved me away from thinking that sales was all about being pushy or manipulative, or at least being about trying to convince or talk people into things, because all of that felt very wrong to me and probably does to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you these perspectives, and then what I'm not going to do is load you down with a lot of detail at this point, because I don't want to influence how you interpret them, how they might create transformation for you. Instead, I'm going to share them. I'm going to give you a moment to reflect so you can integrate these ideas your way, and then we'll have a brief reflection after we go through all of them. So here's the first big idea that shifted my thinking. The definition of sales: helping someone make a decision they want to or have to make. Helping someone make a decision they want to or have to make. The keys here are want to or have to. These are states of being that are entirely driven by the prospective client. So what happens for you when you think of sales this way? Just sit with it, make a note, reflect for a second. And then I'll continue with the shift of perspective here. The second big thing I learned that is my all-time favorite statement about sales is be more committed to your prospect's potential than to your comfort zone. And this was offered by one of my mentors, Therese Skelly. So sit with this for a moment. Be more committed to your prospect's potential than to your comfort zone. What comes up for you? All right, one last piece of the puzzle. Shift your thinking, shift your thinking and approach from promotional to diagnostic. And actually, I am going to go into a little bit of detail here because this needs fleshing out. So a promotional approach is what is happening when you find yourself asking things in a sales conversation. Should I start with offering the highest level program, or should I offer two options, or should I start low and go high? That's about promoting programs. When you are promoting something you want or something that is keeping you comfortable, you are making it about you. On the other hand, a diagnostic approach is making the best recommendation for the prospective client based on what they tell you they want to accomplish. This is probably sounding very logical and obvious to coaches, but maybe it had never been applied to the sales conversation. So this means recommending the lowest program if that is the best fit. And it means not recommending working together if that is the best fit. And perhaps what coaches find most challenging of all, it means getting okay recommending the highest investment offer if that is what you've diagnosed as the service your prospect needs in order to reach the goals they told you. All right, so take a moment. Let some of these shifts grow roots, be planted. And I'd love to just hear back. I'm going to stop the share and just say what landed for you here. What was a bright spot in this section for you? And you can just unmute. Go ahead, Colleen.
I wrote down these are ways of reframing the scary word of sales into a friendlier, client-focused, almost a means of understanding the client. And I love this because I do think we're fearful of something that seems uncomfortable. But if you're a coach and you want to help people and you want to understand your clients, you're already doing these things. So
Yeah,
this isn't too far-fetched. So that was my takeaway.
awesome. Thanks, Colleen. And Britt, I saw you unmuted.
Um, I particularly the first two, but maybe even more the second bullet, the quote from your friend or colleague
Mhm.
about being more committed to your prospect's potential than your comfort zone. I think that to me says, get out of your head, get out of your own way, and
Mhm.
stop being so self-centered or self-focused
Oh,
and
isn't that
more.
weird to think of it that way?
Yeah, and more, focused on what we're here for, which is our client or the subject.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Thank you. All right, Catherine, then Tia, then Randy.
Yeah, the shifting from promotional to diagnostic really hit home because, well, as you said, we're coaches, so we're all about the client, right? And in
Mhm.
my previous career, it was all about relationship selling. So here I go to all that trouble to do the diagnostic, to do the discovery. And then where am I? There I am promoting my, and so that's a huge step that I think many, many salespeople, not just in our industry, miss, even if they do the discovery, which I'm really good at that. We're all good at asking questions.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
awesome. Thanks, Catherine. I
Yep.
appreciate that. It's great perspective. All right, Tia, then Randy.
Yeah, I think the very first one really touched home for me, which was, helping someone make a decision they want to or have to make because I get in my head when it comes to the pricing where I'm like, who's going to pay what I'm offering them? That bullet right there causes us to focus on them versus focusing on us and or focusing on me. So I think I really kind of internalized that one.
I love it. And the thing is that everything in that sales conversation becomes easier when you have, so I think of the whole system of client generation, 6 steps. Sales conversation is 6. If you do 1 through 5 correctly, which we'll go through at the end, so don't worry, we'll cover it. If you go through those things, then you're setting expectations, you're calling in the right people, like all of those things are done. So you can focus on diagnostic instead of wondering about things like budget. Okay. So it makes a huge difference. Your closing ratio will basically double when you do all the things beforehand. All right, Randy.
Yeah, I like all three. The first two really resonated. I like the idea of, putting the focus, it's on the client's perspective. It's not about selling what I do. The third one, on the other hand, kind of triggered a lot of guilt. Um,
Oh,
because in my last job, I was the guy with the checkbook, and I had a lot of vendors who would come and try to do exactly what you're saying with me,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't want it. I would say, I know you're not here to learn about me. You're here to tell me about you. And then I would start asking them questions, but I feel bad because it threw so many of them off their game, of
Yeah.
wanting to basically be diagnostic and learn about me. And I'm like, no, you're here to teach me about you. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand how this relationship should work. I'd be very different now, if I were in
Well,
that position.
and also there's a little bit of a difference when someone codes to you when you have a vendor come in and you're like, okay, I know I have to this year provide 7,500 widgets for my people, and so I've already decided I need to buy them tell me if tell me about it. So it's a little bit different
Right.
than someone saying, I know I have a problem. Let me have a conversation with someone to see if we can come to an understanding. So it's coming into the conversation a little bit differently. So
Yeah.
I, I understand a little bit of the about it, but you probably did just fine.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, but I love the perspective, and it
Yeah.
is interesting that I just did not have that perspective. But now what you've done is put me in a place where, okay, when I go in and talk to somebody who's like I used to be, all right, we'll
Yep.
get there. I,
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Kwame or Mandate, did you want to come on or do you want to just absorb what you got? Either is fine. Kwame, you are muted still.
Uh, right now I'm just absorbing, and I
Okay.
first I'd like to apologize. I kept going off camera because I was cooking lunch and I didn't want it to burn.
Do whatever you got to do. Take care of
So
yourself. You're
I
good.
missed the questions always. So right now I'm just absorbing, but I'll be more attentive this from now on.
All right. Well, good because there's a test at the end. Just kidding. All right. All right. Mandy is off camera. That's totally fine. I just dropped in. I saw a couple people just came in. I dropped the handout into the chat. Very quickly, I'm gonna walk through the three assumptions one more time. I'm literally just gonna touch on each of these new perspectives on sales so that the folks who just came in, we can just touch on it. And I'm going to go straight into the next teaching point. But thank you everybody for sharing how this is shifting. And for the folks who just joined, definitely go back to hear how this is moving the needle about sales. All right, definition of sales, helping someone make a decision they want to or have to make. I got this perspective in my real estate days 150 years ago. Be more committed to your prospects' potential than to your comfort zone. And shift your thinking and approach from promotional to diagnostic. All right, so now we're going to go into the nuts and bolts. You're going to learn a complete sales conversation format that gives your prospects the opportunity to enroll themselves. Now, this is going to be a lot of detailed information. So let me provide you, so just here is where we're going to focus, just to show you on the bigger picture. This is client generation, and here's where we're focusing. And it's a lot of detailed information. It can feel a little overwhelming. So I'm going to start with providing hopefully a little bit of motivation to commit to learning it. So this is from a client who used this format. It was the first time she'd done a sales conversation, I think. And she used the process that you have. And she said, I just had my first sales call using the process, and she booked on the spot. The process worked. I was so much more confident. And what I want to point out here is that if you wait to be confident, you might be waiting a long time. What I recommend, my definition of a successful sales call is one where you follow the process, because when you follow the process, it gives your prospect the opportunity to enroll themselves. If you don't follow the process, you don't give them the opportunity to enroll themselves or not. Making sure that they have the best possible perspective to make a decision for themselves. Okay, so I'm going to start with a high level of what the process looks like, why each part is important, and then we're going to work from the handout. I'm going to share that screen when we get to that point. And then I'll highlight what's most important in each section for you to notice. So here's what it looks like. Number one is setting expectations. Now, setting expectations can be done on the call. You want to make sure you're there for having to have the same conversation. Now, where this gets really funky is when you do I've heard called a sample session. Sometimes the expectations are unclear. The coach somehow has gotten the idea that this might be the way to create a sales conversation, and the person coming on might think they're just doing you a favor. And there's all kinds of different combinations that can happen with people coming to sample sessions. I am not a huge fan of them, but we can talk about that later if you like. So setting expectations, you can do it on the call, or what I really like to do is do it beforehand. And it's very simple with some questions as they book with you. just so you know, is this someone coming to talk about working together? Is it someone, where are they? What are they thinking? This really saves you that worry at the end of the conversation where you're like, oh my gosh, should I say anything about my programs? Did they come here for that? And it can derail and sabotage a whole conversation. So first thing is setting expectations. And again, this is very broad. The handout has precise language, fill in the blank, the whole thing. This is your overview. So first you're going to set expectations. Yay, we are on the same page. We are proceeding with a conversation. The next phase is discovering needs. Now these are the questions, and I've been told. Now I'm not a coach, by the way. So what I've been told is this is like eliciting awareness. I think that's it, something like that. You can correct me later. And this is just questions, and the idea is that you are giving your prospect the time to reflect and explore what is the actual problem, what if they already tried, what is the impact if they don't solve it, and it's for you to hear it, but as much or more, it's to give someone the time to go through the whole process of thinking it through, to understand how valuable it would be to them kind of emotionally to make a change. So this is the part that coaches are usually most comfortable with, and the thing you have to do is really rein in your coach, because this is not a coaching session, this is a sales conversation. And so not going where the client is pointing you, you're following a process. So it's definitely different than a coaching session. So you're going to discover needs. Okay, this is number 3. I want you to put big stars and hearts and flowers around, because this is one of the things that is often confused. So actually, I'm going to put up number 4 also. So because I want you to show you the difference. So educate and give value. This is where you're going to share with them, from what you said to me, here's what I recommend you do. And it is all about what they just told you. Okay, so I hear you're stressing out about your work, and you've created different, same situation in your work situation you were hoping to escape in your last one. So the first thing you're going to have to do is get clear about what you value, because otherwise, as we look for another job with, together, you are going to create the same thing you created. So it's directive, which is a little different than a lot of coaching. But here's the important difference between 3 and 4. This is what I really want you to hear. This step 3, the educate and give value, is what they need to do regardless of whether they work with you or not. Okay, regardless of whether they work with you. This is just, here are the steps. It's not the services, it's the steps. Here's what you'll focus on first. Then what I'd recommend is this. And then you're going to want to this. Does that sound right to you? And once you get through that phase, then you're going to ask if it's okay to share how you work with their clients, if they want, or how you work with your clients, if they want to know about it. But if they do, then you're going to make your offer. You're going to describe and explore the work you do together. You're going to enroll them, however your process is. Addressing objections might come in here somewhere. And then for people who are non-buyers, because guess what? An excellent sales closing ratio is 50%. Excellent is 50%. That means half the time people are not buying. You're going to hear different theories about this, but you want to close with clarity and connection. I think that's an important piece. Okay, so I'm going to go into the detailed document, if I can get it over to the right screen. Actually, hang on. I usually only do PowerPoint, so having to switch over to another document is new and fun technical challenge. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is the sales conversation, and as you can see, And actually, let me just double check that we are actually seeing the same thing. You are seeing my, yes. Okay. So in this, it's very, it's very specific. I'm very process driven because if we can take the guesswork out of how to do something, then we don't have to worry about confidence. You just follow the process. So what you're seeing here is a great kind of example of how all of the work I do kind of looks. All right. So in this, I have highlighted, yours is not going to be highlighted. Mine is going to be highlighted to show like one of the most important things in, and or the most important things throughout the sales conversation. All right, so let me make this just a wee bit bigger. There we go. All right, so in the setting expectations, here is the most important phrase. If you're going to do expectation setting on the call, in a nutshell, what made you to decide to invest the time to find out more about coaching? In a nutshell, why is that important? Well, because people will, they will just tear into their life story. And then what happens is as you start to go into the discover needs, you start to skip questions because you're like, oh, they already told me that. They already told me that. But remember, this isn't about, like, the discover needs section is not about you checking all the boxes. It's about bringing them through a process. And it's kind of in a specific order for them to do reflection. But to like avoid that, oh my gosh, they already answered and I'm asking again, kind of spinning that can happen on the call. In a nutshell, what made you decide? Or in 30 seconds or less. Okay. Now, there are some offers of how to set expectations. I'll be honest, I don't do any of these because they all happen when I have people do their, when they book the appointment. So know that that is an option. All right, discovering needs. Here are our questions. And what's really interesting is this, what seems like a very innocuous question, number 10. Whoops, I just reformatted everything. There we go. Why is this important to you right now? So about 10 years ago, I thought it would be a good idea to try to train my assistant, my virtual assistant, to do sales conversations. By the way, super bad idea. Okay, but as we were practicing this, what I did was I had her sit in the role of the prospective client, and then I was the salesperson. And then we switched roles. When we switched roles, she followed the process, which I wrote. She followed the process. She got to this question, and I started crying. And I just can't think of a better example to show the power of the process of letting people experience going through this reflection. I knew it was coming, and still, because I was answering the questions thoughtfully, it brought me to a place of getting very clear about why this was important. So that's one that seems like maybe not that important, really important. Okay, so educate and give value. Highlighted here. This is just a suggestion of a format, okay? But it's a nice way to narrow things down. And this is all based on what they told you. All right, so going through this, from what you told me, or based on our conversation, what I'd recommend you start is this. Let's look at your time management. You're gonna want to look at your time management. This will allow you to have a little breathing room so you can actually decide what you want at a deeper level. And so I put some examples in here. They're all based on my business. So apologies for that. You'll need to interpret for coaching. But this is a great format to just lay out. And remember, this is the section where you're just giving them, you're educating them about the next touch points, the next steps they're going to want to take, regardless of whether they hire you. Very factual. You'll notice in this section, it is not about my services. You need a customized marketing plan. This will allow you to cut back on your working hours and get more clients so you can earn the money you want and spend more time with your children. As you well know, this is never this formulaic. It never works this perfectly. But have a process in place. Okay, so here's one of the self-enrollment questions. If you have the handout, look at this right now. If you had these things in place, what would change? This is a self-enrollment question. This is where they start to picture a solution and say, yep, okay, if I had this solution, I would start to get some relief. I'd start to reach some of my goals. And then you want to expand. What else? What else? What do you mean? Tell me more. And sometimes people don't have a lot of things, totally fine. And then I can help with all of this. Would you like to know how? Another way to answer this or ask this question, by the way, is would you like me to share how I work with my clients? All right. And then you make a recommendation. This is where you make an offer. You describe and explore the work you do together. All right, I've highlighted a couple of things here. So first of all, this right here is a narrative of what it is. Here's what I recommend. We're going to sit down. We're going to do this first month, second month. Not, okay, we're going to meet for 2 times a month. It's going to be on the 3rd Tuesday and we'll set up a schedule and I'll send you my calendar link. That's in the weeds. That's way too much logistics. You want to get into like the heart of the work you're going to be doing together. So what is important here, the mention of the investment. The investment is here. The program is, let's say $5,000, and then you keep going. Now, if you've ever taken a sales class, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have you go through the whole sales conversation, and then you'll say the investment, and then the instructions are, be quiet. The first person who speaks loses. This is literally how I was taught sales and had to unlearn myself. This approach that you have on your handout and you see on the screen, this is a way to give people a little privacy and a moment with their thoughts after hearing the price. So the program is $5,000, and based on our conversation, what I see it can do for you is give you the plan so you're not second guessing what you're doing, because you're really going to need to address the challenge of earning enough money in order to not go back to getting a job. Something like that. And then you ask, this is another self-enrollment question. What benefits do you think you'll see from working together? And then is this something you'd like to get started with? All right. There's some language I'm not going to go through too much, but you've got a lot of different options for, how to, once they say yes, how to smoothly go into here's how we're going to enroll. And there is, you want to give them a little space, be quiet, not shut up, don't ask prompting questions. And then you just go into what's your billing address if you take credit cards right away. And then I have addressing objections. And the only thing I'm going to say about addressing objections is I really encourage you to embrace the idea of addressing rather than overcoming. Overcoming has that overpowering, I know better than you kind of feeling. The addressing objections is, and again, this goes back to Therese Skelly, one of my former mentors. She said, the way you want to think about objections is when someone it's like you're sitting across from each other at a table. The prospective client puts an objection in the middle of the table, and addressing that objections means you scoot over to their side of the table and you're like, okay, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to work on this together? Okay. I think that's all I'm going to go through with this, because I do want to just share the last little piece of, I have my hand up again because I make lots of hand gestures apparently. Hang on. So I'm going to do one more slide here and then we'll go straight into a nice Q&A bit. So last piece of the puzzle is what is the number one way to decrease stress and increase enrollment? It's good to have the format, but what's the number one way to decrease stress and increase enrollment? It is to have a full calendar of sales calls. I mean, we'd all like to think that we have this like centered presence, and whether we have 10 sales calls on the books or only one lonely appointment, we're going to, have our being and presence all very calm and everything. But the fact is, if you don't have enough sales leads coming in, and you just have that one little sales call, you're praying it'll turn into a client. That's where you end up doing things like, oh, I'll give you a discount, or oh, I'll give you a little bit more. And it, it unintentionally makes it about you again. Being in the state of worry is, it's not attractive. It's not an emotional state that will lead to sustainable, profitable business. Um, so after the Q&A, the remainder of their time will focus on the bigger picture of how to get more leads coming in. I'm going to kick that off. I'm going to give you a few resources for that as well. But I've been talking for a long time, so I know now is the time to say, what did you discover? What stood out to you, and what do you have questions about?
Mary, I do have a question.
Perfect.
And it goes back to the set the expectation. You're saying set the expectation for the sales call, like, hey, we're actually here to talk about how much I'm charging, setting that expectation, because I think you were saying separate it from your coaching session to this is actually a like a business call. Is that the expectation we're talking about?
Yes, this is not a coaching call.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so we're saying, explain that to the person that we're speaking with, that, this is, and I don't even know how to word it. Like,
Okay.
so
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go to the actual scripting, you probably didn't have time to like print out the whole
right,
handout, maybe.
I've got it up here.
Okay. So there's some questions at the beginning that makes it very graceful and very gracious, and not like, okay, we're here to talk about you giving me money. It's more like, okay, so what made you want to talk about, in a nutshell, why did you come to the call to talk about exploring coaching? Great. So do I have your permission to push your comfort zone if it's something that we want to dig a little deeper into? Okay, great. And if at the end of the conversation we discover that there's something that I can do with my services that'd be helpful, are you comfortable with me sharing something about my program? And they're going to say yes. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's what it's going to sound like.
that was so smooth. I'm glad we recorded that.
And it's written down for you
Right.
in that whole thing.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. All right, Mandy says, my question is, how do you get them on the call curious about the offer? Mandy, that's what we're going to do for the rest of the time. I'm going to show you the whole process for lead generation, client generation, and I will have some resources for you as well around that. Thanks, Mandy. All right, other ahas or questions?
How do you address concerns about the cost?
Okay. Um, this is okay. There's a lot of answers here. First is all the work we're going to talk about in a second, which is, have you identified your ideal client? Because, by the way, an ideal client is someone who can afford your services. Someone who cannot afford your services is not an ideal client. If they can't afford your services, you have to find other funding sources and your job changes, which is fine. I don't really know how to mentor along those lines. So your ideal client is someone who can afford your services. There's qualification that should be happening before you get on the call so that it's not a surprise when you say some numbers. All right. And after if you go through the whole thing, so here's the thing, is you're getting a little bit of agreement along the way. And it's not like talking people into things. Let me be clear, because I've heard sales techniques and it's like, you got to get them saying yes right away and say yes again. And that way they're going to say yes at the end. That's not what I'm talking about. It's more like, okay, I'm going to take a step forward. Are you with me? Am I tracking? Have I got it the right way? Yes. Okay, great. Let's take another step. Are we still, is there anything we need to adjust? Okay, another step. So when you get to talking about your program and the pricing, they've basically invited you to do it. So starting there, you get a lot less pushback on investment. So in the addressing objections, it has this in detail, but I'll share what it kind of sounds like. Okay. So if someone goes, ooh, that's a lot of money, you go, okay. Because sometimes they're just like, can I make payments? They're going to go to the next thing. Like they have a question, and we can't let our little lizard brains go, they can't afford it, and I've just been rejected, and I'm going to be socially outcast, because that's what happens. Okay. So instead, we have to find out the truth. And that's what this is always about. Okay. So, okay, I hear it's a lot. Tell me what you're thinking. All right. We're going to say, okay, so, well, I have this happening, this happening, this happening. Okay. So if they haven't given you something concrete, you're saying, okay, so is this something where if we structured the payments in a way, it would become possible? And sometimes I'd be like, no, just no, no, no. Okay, great. So I'm hearing that you still want to get the relief, you still want to get these things, but this approach is not going to work for you financially. Okay, great. So then you have to kind of requalify and you go, okay, so here's the thing. Would you like to see how we might be able to do part of this? Maybe not without quite as high level, but at least get you started. Would you be, and trying to fit your budget, would that be a conversation you'd be open to? And if you're like, no, I have like $5 in my pocket, that's all I've got. And you go, no problem. I hear what you're saying. And so my question now is simply, what's the best takeaway from our call? What are you going to do moving forward? What will you commit to? And would you like me to touch base with you in 30 days? I mean, if it's no money, find out. Don't nice your way off the call and then you feel like they're ghosting you and you're doing all your follow up. It's awful. It's awful. And it drives you crazy and you feel like an idiot. Don't do that to yourself. Find out the truth and, encourage them to tell it to you. All right. Um, if they do say, yes, I would like to explore something lower, ask them, do you have a budget in mind? Don't keep shooting in the dark. Do you have a budget in mind? I don't think that's even in the objections, but it really should be, because otherwise you're going to go, well, how about this? And how about this? And how about this? Why don't I send you 3 programs? And then you're making a proposal for someone who wants to spend $200. It's just exhausting. Some of you have done this. I can see it on your faces. All right. Is there any other element to the question, Britt, or does that pretty much cover what you're looking for?
That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. And so what is anyone noticing that while this is straightforward, there are a lot of different ways to move through it? Yeah. So when you are beating yourself up about, I don't know how to do this, this is one part of the process. Please, please, please know that this is it's complex, it's nuanced, but it's not complicated if you know what you're doing, if you have that guide and that roadmap. If you don't, then it is very hard. All right. Any other comments or questions before I give you some resources? Catherine.
Yes. I want to know, have you been watching me in my sales process? Because how did you know?
Stop it.
How did you know that I spent hours on my not ideal client?
Yep.
So to reiterate, that's not me. Those are to
Yeah, we've got
reiterate
a lot
your
of
point.
smiley faces happening. This is fun.
We have to qualify our clients and ask that. The budget question is a very good question. That's what I'm supporting you in that, because
Thank you.
I've done that more than once and I know better. And so, but true confessions. Yep. Big time waste.
It really can be. And the fact is that sometimes we just got to learn. We just have to learn it. I mean, let me look at something real quick on this. Okay, so one thing I do want to make clear is what you have in your hands is the process for individual clients. Okay, corporate clients is a different process. That's something I teach in my paid programs. And, so that's something we don't have here today. It is a significantly different process. Same concept, same phases, but it's just handled differently. Budget comes up much sooner, things like that. There's a little bit more about logistics. But one thing that is true for either of these, and I had someone years ago when I had like a $1,500 program, they said this one tip was worth the whole $1,500. So here it is. Don't leave a meeting without scheduling the next one. Especially in corporate. And here's how you line it out. Okay, great. Thank you for your time. My process is I'm going to put together a proposal. I'm looking at my calendar. I will have time to do that on Friday. I will get it to you Monday. So my process is we'll meet Tuesday or Wednesday. Are you available at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 2 p.m. on Wednesday? What we're going to do on that call, we're going to review this. We're going to fine tune and ask any questions. And that way there's no hiccup in moving forward. Sound good? Nobody does this, by the way, except for my clients. They better. Right. Otherwise, what happens, especially with corporate, the proposal goes into the void, or you're like, okay, now you have the proposal, let's set a time to go over it. No, until you set a time, you don't get the proposal. Not said in those words, but that's the idea. Okay. Because I said, the biggest impact on your sales and closing ratio is being able to, or the way to lower your stress in your sales conversation is to have plenty of leads. I wanted to give you a couple of resources, because what I know at this point, people are thinking, okay, one of two things. Usually people are falling into one of two camps at this point. You're like, okay, this is super practical, makes so much sense. And like, how do I get more of it? Or you're thinking, this is super practical, makes so much sense. This feels like a lot. Where would I even start? So regardless of which camp you're in, I want you to know this is possible. It's a steady stream of great clients is 100% possible. And these are, great clients, people who appreciate what you do, who pay you what you're worth. So I want to support you beyond this call to start the process of getting a full calendar of sales calls. So I have a couple of trainings for you as my gift, as the top 2 ways that coaches get clients. So the top 2 ways are speaking and referrals. I'm going to give you these 2 courses, my treat. Okay, so number 1, referral generation made simple. It's a training with action guides, scripts, templates, taking the awkward out of asking for referrals, and templates so you can start generating referrals intentionally and consistently. And the second one is if you want to speak to attract leads, I have a course called Fill Your Speaking Calendar. And these are the exact strategies, templates, and checklists that me and my team use to speak consistently. Also a checklist of everything you need to include if you want to speak for free as a lead generation strategy. Okay, so if you'd like access to those courses, we're going to do our homework in class right now. Send an email to me. Is my email below my face right here? Yes, Mary@simplygetclients.com. Mary@simplygetclients.com. Subject line, smile. That way, because I know more bookings and more clients will make you smile. So go ahead and send that email, and within about a day, you're going to get a flurry of emails to confirm and give you access to my learning platform. So just be prepared to that. It won't be like that all the time. Promise. So I'm going to give you a second to do that, and I'll get set up to go into the last teaching point and wrapping up. And here's the thing, I know some of you are probably like, yay, resources. But at this point, there's always a handful of people who at this point are like, okay, more self-guided training, yay. So if you're actively searching for a business mentor, in that case, at the bottom of your handout, there's a link to my calendar, breakthroughcall.biz, for a complimentary one-on-one. I'll give some more details in a minute, but if it's something you already know you're looking for, I'm going to give you the link in the chat. And you can go ahead and get on my calendar. We can continue the conversation. Breakthrough. I should really choose something where there aren't so many letters that you can swap and completely screw it up. Breakthroughcall.biz. So send me the email for the resources. But if you do want to have a conversation about how to get some professional help, that's the link for that. All right, you all set? Okay, here we go. We are going to dive into the bigger picture structure and system that makes it easier to attract clients, grow your income, and make a bigger impact in the world. So as I mentioned before, if you don't have enough leads flowing in, sales calls can be extremely successful. So the question is, what system or process do you have in place right now that you know consistently creates and puts sales calls on your calendar? Well, the fact is that most people don't have a system. They learn a little bit here, a little bit there. They end up with more of like a time-consuming mess, spaghetti against the wall. To have a consistent flow of leads coming in without overworking, you need a structure and a system. So I'm going to give one to you. Okay? So I'm going to equip you with a bigger picture understanding of client generation so you can proactively be attracting more clients, more sales conversations, and have a bit more sale consistency and control over your results. And what I know is that most people, because you've been learning here and there and everywhere, you probably have some of these things and you probably need some of these things. But in the busyness of business, it's hard to tell which is which. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go over each of these 6 essential elements. I'm going to simplify our image here. And you will assess how clearly defined each is in your business on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is your ideal situation. It's the goal for these, and 1 is the opposite, obviously. Okay, so we are going to start over here on the left. And these answers that you give are for you. Please do not put them in the chat. It will not make any sense. All right, so on the left, values and vision. When your values and vision are completely clear, you create a critically necessary to doing business. You create a sense of conviction. This gives you the courage to ask to be paid what you're worth, gives you the willingness to put yourself out there, even if you risk rejection. So on a scale of 1 to 10, are you clear about your values, your vision, and your goals? Next is pricing and packaging. When you know that your pricing reflects the value of your services, when it's aligned with your financial goals and your packages are clearly defined, so many things start to click into place. You can dial in exactly how much lead generation activity you need to do. You aren't feeling put on the spot when asked about your programs, and you're not going to get tripped up when it comes to the money part of your sales conversations. So the bottom line question here is, are you clear and confident that your pricing is where it needs to be for you to reach your financial goals without overworking? Next is ideal client. So this is key to attracting the right people. So when describing your ideal client, you never start that description with the words, I'd be willing to work with. Okay. Now, let me be clear. You can take on any client you want, obviously, but in order to create a steady stream of great paying clients, your strategy must be built around your ideal client. That who will both be able to serve you, you'll be able to serve at the highest level and will pay you at the highest level. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear are you about who your ideal client is and where you can find prospects who can afford your services? All right, magnetic messaging is next. Messaging is the words that appear everywhere in your business, what you say, what's on your website, everything. Messaging is magnetic when it quickly articulates what your ideal clients want from their perspective, not yours. What are your ideal clients experiencing before they work with you? What are they dreaming about? What are they worrying about? When I am working on a client attraction plan with my clients, it's my favorite part of the work because I can see them. It's the moment where their whole business changes in an instant because they go from scrambling to explain or convince, and they shift to this solid ownership of their value and coming from a place of attraction. So on a scale of 1 to 10, assess how effectively do you communicate the value of your services, so when you meet people, they quickly have a conversation about hiring you. And you know your messaging is not magnetic if you explain what you do and people say that's nice. It's magnetic if they say that's me. That's the difference. All right, lead generation. So what's most important here for lead generation is that you define and then implement a very specific set of actions that directly lead to sales conversations. Let me be clear, lead generation is not about being visible or putting yourself out there. What does that even mean? What do you do on Monday morning at 9 a.m. to put yourself out there? But when you have these actions clearly defined, what you're creating is a lead generation formula. You stop worrying where your next client is coming from, or if you're doing the right things, or if you're doing enough things. When your lead generation element is at a 10, you do something really crazy, and that is relax, knowing month after month the leads are coming in. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you about your ability to bring in new leads consistently? And then the last piece of the puzzle, we were talking about that today. Can you confidently convert a prospect into a paying client? Having a sales process in place. In corporate, how do you make sure that proposals don't get lost in the shuffle of decision makers? So this is the last assessment. I probably should have done this at the beginning too to see if there's any shift in the number, but on a scale of 1 to 10, are you confident in your sales conversations and consistently get hired as a result? All right, so looking up here at the screen, what would your business look like if you had 10s across the board? Just want you to think about that. Just put that vision out there because it takes work to get there. But if you can start visioning the possibilities of it, like for instance, I do very little lead generation because I got so busy with clients that now my team does it. Okay, that's what 10s across the board could look like. Maybe that's not your 10s across the board. But what does your vision of possibilities look like? What we did here is we have gotten some clarity on where to focus for improvement. So now the question is, what do you need to put in place once you get the plan in place? How do you make sure to implement consistently? And implementation is so key. I mean, my best clients, they are great students. And we have a saying, students earn, implementers earn. Students learn, implementers earn. And so it's something that we have to tackle with all of our clients. And I have a great client story about this. This is Kimberly. Like most coaches, her vision and values were clear, but how to attract clients, not so much. She understood why she was committed to coaching, but was getting discouraged because she was always second guessing where to put her efforts to grow her business. And and like me, and maybe like you, she has a creative streak. So she kept trying new things, but trying new things and learning new things, it only gave the illusion of progress. And it wasn't actually getting traction. And not getting traction, it doesn't come from a lack of effort or a lack of brilliance. It's a lack of clarity. And getting clarity on a breakthrough call is how Kimberly and I kicked things off. We decided to work together and we created a plan and a structure that did not crush her creativity, but focused it. We channeled it more strategically. So she had confidence that her efforts would actually pay off. So within a few months, I should really update this because she's done so much since then. But to start, she built the plan to attract clients, and it was so specific, it became obvious how it would get done. And within a few short months, she was able to leave her corporate job. Since this time, she's continued building on the plan, published in HBR. She's been, what did she do? Create a brand, just completely exploded. All right, so I know you're happy for Kimberly, but what about you? Let's take a moment to create some lasting impact for you. This is where we're going to take the whole big picture, sales and the whole lead generation, client generation thing and say, okay, what's next? So the first thing I'm going to have you do is based on how the information you got today and what you are reflecting on that you need, I want you to self-diagnose your top challenge. Usually what I find with my clients, it's one or more of three things that are happening. It's either one, your strategy is shaky, two, your lead generation formula is unclear, or three, your implementation is inconsistent. So let me just flesh these out for you. If it's your strategy, you're probably getting up every morning, you start working, you're off and running. At the end of the day, you look around and wonder, exactly what did I do to grow the business intentionally? Your days often feel reactive and busy, but not necessarily developing new business or attracting clients. So that's a strategy challenge. Okay, how do you know it's your lead generation formula? That would be where everything's kind of hit or miss. Okay, you're pulling in some ideal clients, but for the most part, it's inconsistent. And this really shows up in the income roller coaster. One day you're on cloud nine, the next day just blows, and you never know what you're going to get when you wake up in the morning. All right, how do you know if it's implementation? Well, implementation challenges come up because, well, you might have color coded everything going on. You know, your tabs match your highlighters, match your Google Calendar, and you love strategic planning. It's all mapped out, and you, at the end of the day, you realize that you've reworked your plan, but you didn't put anything into action. All right, and implementation challenges can also be bright shiny object syndrome. Let's be honest. Okay, so now with that information, take a look again at the ratings in the last exercise, the notes you made earlier, see what's standing out to you. Are there any patterns that you feel are emerging? Please just reflect and make a note of just anything that's coming up and noticing. And if you'd like to, in the chat, I'd love to know who we've got in the room. You know, is your top challenge a 1, a 2, or a 3? All right. You're in there planning right now instead. Oh, wait, we did get something in the chat. Yay. Let's see. We got 2, all of them, 2. Okay, lead generation formula. Okay, beautiful. 1. Yep, strategy and lead generation. Well, here's the thing is that you're already kind of hitting upon what I'm going to share next, which is 2 things, regardless of which seems to be your biggest challenge. Number 1, it's always more than one. You got one main challenge, but the other ones are going to be showing up kind of in rotation. That's the entrepreneurial journey. And number 2, solving these challenges, that's what I'm here for. You know, that's how it's my superpower, and it's how I make an impact for change makers like you. Okay, deep breath. In a minute, I'm going to give you the second question for creating lasting impact. And after that, we'll have a little time for Q&A. But before we tackle it, I'm going to take a moment to give the logical side of your brain a break and get the creative centers of your mind on board. Maybe give you a little refresh because you've been working hard here. So do this, okay? Do this for me. Take your hands off the keyboard, put your pen down, and close your eyes if you're comfortable, or lower your gaze. Take a deep breath. And I invite you to imagine having a steady stream of great clients coming in. These are clients who pay you what you're worth. You're making a difference. You're known for your expertise and your brilliance. And to attract those clients, you have a plan. And it's not just any plan. It's a plan full of things that you love to do, things that feel natural and simple. So every part of your business feels genuine. You know what to do. You know where to go. And you know what to say to take clients from that first handshake to signing on the bottom line. And you do this with confidence and with consistency and with ease. Take another deep breath. Open your eyes. Is that a vision you could get behind? Yes? I hope so. All right, we have just a little bit more work to do now that we've given you a little refresh, a little break. Here's the second question to create lasting impact, and that is, what is your plan? What is your plan to address your biggest challenge or to get tens across the board with client generation? And how will you integrate that into your current business? Now, if this is bringing up any stress for you, please don't worry. I'm going to show you how you can get some help in a minute, but get started now. Just jot down a few ideas, the first few ideas that pop into your head to get that plan started. All right, I want to end on time. So here's the thing, you're going to want to set aside some time to flesh out this plan later. But if you've already been struggling for a while to come up with a plan, or if you're thinking about a plan you already have and you're saying, you know what, this isn't getting me where I want to go fast enough, then let's schedule a time now to talk one-on-one and figure it out together. Let's figure it out so a year from now, you're celebrating successes instead of struggling with the exact same things. Because regardless of whether you're in your first few years of business or you're down the road a bit and things have gotten messy, scheduling a complimentary breakthrough call is kind of the logical next step if you've been feeling a little stuck, like you're spinning your wheels and you can't figure out why and you can't get out of the spin cycle. So to be clear, together on this breakthrough call, we're going to sit down and map out where to focus your efforts for the next 3 to 6 months. So you're clear about the best use of your time and energy for the specific phase of business you're in right now. And if you're in the phase where in 2026, you want or need to cross the next six-figure mark, but you're thinking, left to my own devices, exactly how am I going to get there? Then it's definitely the right time for this call. Now, before I give you the link, which I am going to give you, I do have 2 criteria. Number 1, you have to be open to straightforward feedback. It's a short call. I need to have permission to get to the point. And second, I ask that you be willing to consider investing in yourself if we both see that working together further will give you that tens across the board plan so you're enrolling new clients consistently without working nights and weekends. Fair enough? All right, here's the link, breakthroughcall.biz. And of course, the little QR code is up there. You just pick a date, pick a time. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a bird's eye view of your business through my discovery process. You are not going to show up to pick my brain. I am not going to do an extended sales pitch because nobody wants that. And anyway, it'll be obvious if we want to do more work together. And what's super fun about this class is that you already know the process. And I'm telling you, it's a wonderful process to go through. All right, I am going to put that in the chat, and then we have 5.5 minutes for some questions. Oh, that's not the right one. Hold, please. Here we go. Breakthroughcall.biz in the chat, so you can click on it and I can navigate away from this slide. All right. Like drinking from the fire hose, hey? All right. So we have a few minutes for questions, or if you like, I can just go one by one and ask for bright spots. That would be fun. You want to do that? Or let me just quickly say, does anyone have a specific question? All right, then I'm going to do bright spots. Colleen, you're in my upper right, upper left, and then Tia after you. Hi.
Right spot. I've written down a plan and I feel like I've got some traction and some reminders and reframing that I need to refer to, but I'm ready to get going and you've brought me some energy today to do it.
Yay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Tia, and then Michelle.
Well, my bright spot, I guess, is a little, I'm going to be a little transparent here. I believe my strategy is shaky and non-existent.
Hmm.
And my because of that, I don't want to reach out. So then that means my lead generation is non-existent. And because of those top two being shaky, there's no implementation. So I think based off of this, I found that I've got to go back to the drawing board. And
Hmm.
that's where, if I can get that clarity, that's going to build the confidence to put myself out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have a background in this work?
Yes, so that's the other thing. Because I wasn't confident in it, I keep going back and just trying to get more and more knowledge, certifications, and things of that nature. Like
Comfort zone.
smarter that
Yep.
I am, I have those certifications, and I'm not implementing it because of the first two.
Yeah. And so I appreciate you being transparent about that. And let me just say that very normal.
Okay.
Um, when you're starting and going to the comfort zone of learning about coaching, very normal. And there are very few backgrounds that actually prepare you for doing this kind of work, if only because it's personal. And so second guessing is just the way we keep ourselves safe.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just talking to someone the other day. They worked like 25 years in the State Department. They'd just gotten out. And when we were having a breakthrough call, they're like, you know what? I'm going to send out emails to my entire database of people. And I'm like just cringing because I know there's this information that's going to go out and it's just not going to be the most strategic thing. So usually I'm like, just put it out there, see how it goes. And also getting some strategy around it. And Tia, don't figure it out on your own. Please know that you can reach out to me, like let's schedule a call because I have this and this is what I do. So
Yeah, I
I
already
don't,
picked my time at least
okay, good,
doing that
good.
when you when you called
Okay,
me.
'cause I'm
So
like,
yes,
this
I
is
am
exactly
scheduling
what
my
I've been
call.
doing. Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. Michelle and then Kwame.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it definitely is energizing, like Colleen said. I think where I thought my issue was maybe lead generation, but it's actually strategy because I'm all over the place and have all these ideas, and so being a lot more strategic in how I go about it might lead to more tangible results. So really, this was very refreshing. So thank you.
Awesome. I think of it like all those six areas, they're like a combination lock, but not just a combination lock, like you figure out all your things. It's combination lock with dependencies between each other. So it's like if you do this here, you have to do this differently over here. So it's crazy combination lock, but you do have to decide and be strategic. You're absolutely right. Okay, Kwame and then Randy. And I know we're coming up right to the top of the hour, so if you have to hop off, I understand. If you want to jump in with yours out of order, go ahead and please jump in. But Kwame, you're up next.
Okay, so initially I thought I had my big issue was with lead generation. But then I started listening to you, and I realized my strategy was weak and my implementation was just non-existent. So now, well, what I got from this is, okay, I need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so that's and I am going to schedule a call with you to get everything in order.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Randy and then Britt.
Hey, thank you, Mary. This is fantastic stuff. It is, as everybody said, energizing. I think the strategy thing was an eye opener for me, right? To realize that's my I have a core issue. I'm very comfortable what my value is. Um, However, I'm investing the bulk of my time in nonprofit, non-paying work.
Mhm.
So somewhere I have to decide from a personal strategy standpoint, okay, do I want my value or is there something less than that that I'm willing to accept because I'm having impact in other ways?
Yeah, and you bring up something really important, and that is like when I invited people to a call, it's like we have to take into consideration the phase of business you're in, because the strategy for someone who's down the road and has a reputation but might be making a pivot, the moves and the strategy very different than someone who's just starting out or who's changing niches or is moving from consulting to coaching. It's like it just is, or scaling, which is one of my favorite things to do, but
Mhm.
it has to be different. So there's a framework to work within, but your answers are going to be very different. So,
Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Randy. All right, Britt and then Tony.
Hi, thank you, Mary. My coaching practice has been dormant, so this is an opportunity for me to try to dust it off. And what strikes me the most is just the intentionality around the process that you've laid out. So that's what I'm taking away today is the intentionality and starting with the values and also strategy.
Great. And you know, the whole intentionality thing, the more intentional you are, the less you have to do, which is one of those things coaches really like. So, yeah, instead of pray and spray or post and hope. Yeah. All right, Tony and then Wendy.
Mary, thank you very much. This is great. Now, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I was in the Air Force for 34 years, retired a few years ago, and I've been doing consulting ever since, but just finished yesterday, 4 weeks ago, my coaching master's program. And
Hey,
yeah, from the Townsend Institute out in California. So I've got a long ways to go
nice.
in all of those pieces. So knowing Randy for a long time, joined the chapter, and now just I'm on a bicycle, wheeling like crazy, looking at all those parts and pieces and trying to encapsulate all of this because the schooling doesn't teach you that. It teaches you all the coaching stuff. But you have hit the nail on the head. So thank you very much for this. I'm definitely going to schedule a time with you.
Awesome. Awesome. I'd love to have that conversation. All right, Wendy, you're off camera, but you want to come on, go for it.
Hi, thank you so much. It's been really interesting. I have got a bit discombobulated at the beginning because I couldn't get, I couldn't, I didn't get an invitation. So I'm looking forward to reviewing it when, anyway, really helpful and very, very helpful to have it all laid out. As you say, you're an organized thinker, and that having it all defined in that way is very helpful for me. So thank you very much. It's been great.
You're welcome. Wonderful. I'm glad you made it. Glad you made it. And I know we were very intentional about hitting the record button. So it's all there. All right, I am going to hand it back to Randy. Thank you for letting me serve you today. I got so energized myself because if I can help people like demystify like what is sales and what is it really and what can it be, I mean, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Mary, thank you very much. This has been fantastic. For what most of you don't know is I cornered Mary at TCC and said, you should come to San Antonio. And someday we'll get you here in person, but
Why don't
this
I
was
come
a
out
good
there next
alternative.
year?
Yeah.
Let's do a fun thing next year. Yeah, I'll
We
come
are
out.
finding that people are very, very responsive to in-person events. So,
Let's do it.
yep. So yeah, just let me know when we'll make it happen. But thank you. This has been fantastic.
My
Great
pleasure.
content as always. And yeah, I guess that's just about it. Tia, you did all the organization. Thank you as well for making this happen. You stepped up. By the way, this is the first event in the 2 years that I've been with the chapter that was not run by someone on the board. So Tia
Committee,
stepped in.
yay!
She's a trooper. Obviously going to be a board member next year. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Um, but no, that's it. Anybody, any final parting words for Mary from anybody else or Mary for us?
You know what? I will mention one thing. Is anybody going to Converge?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Um, I'm doing a pre-conference thing for people going. So anyway, never mind.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to stay on. If people have questions about the chapter, we can chat. And Mary, of course, you're always welcome to stay on as well.
I
But if you
need
need
to
to
go.
step away,
I have a
yeah,
sales call.
no
So I gotta
problem.
go.
Thanks again, Mary.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.